ABC Kinder Teach presents Dear Mrs. LaRue, Letters from Obedience School, written and illustrated by Mark Teague. And so as this must be the dog, I bet this is Mrs. LaRue, and it looks like the dog is writing letters, and he has a book there that says 50 Great Escapes, so he must be planning on escaping from somewhere, probably obedience school. The Snort City Register Gazette. That's the name of the newspaper. The town is called Snort City, and it's a make-believe town. And local dog enters obedience school. Local just means the dog lives near Snort City, where the story takes place. Enters just means that that's where the dog was sent. And again, obedience school is someplace where you send a dog who doesn't behave. And this is Ike LaRue citing a long list of behavioral problems, which means like saying Ike has this problem with behaving, he has that problem with behaving, he also has this other problem with behaving, and so he has lots of problems with behaving. Snort City resident Gertrude R. LaRue yesterday enrolled or sent her dog Ike in the Igor Brotweiler Canine Academy. Academy is just another name for school. Established, which means it was first opened in 1953, the Academy has a history of dealing with such issues. So basically they're saying that the Academy can make Ike behave.
I'm at my wit's end,
said Mrs. LaRue, which means she's tried everything, she just doesn't know what else to do with the dog.
I love Ike, but I'm afraid he's quite spoiled. He steals food right off the kitchen counter, chases the neighbor's cats, howls whenever I'm away, and last week, while I was crossing the street, he pulled me down and tore my best camel's hair coat. I just don't know what else to do.
School officials were unavailable for comment. So when they asked the people at the obedience school about Ike, they said, we can't really say anything. And this is Ike starting to write his letters, October 1st. Dear Mrs. LaRue, how could you do this to me? This is a prison, not a school. And of course, he's exaggerating. It looks like a really nice place, but he's trying to make her feel like it's this place, not that place. You should see the other dogs. They are bad dogs, Mrs. LaRue. I do not fit in. Even the journey, or trip, here was a horror, which means he had strong feelings of being afraid and disgusted. I was very unhappy and may need something to chew on when I get home. Please come right away. Sincerely, or truthfully, or honestly, Ike. So Ike is telling Mrs. LaRue that this is where he's at, which looks very, very scary. And it says, we aim to tame warning prisoners on board instead of dogs. And so this is what he's trying to make her believe it looks like, but it really looks really, really pretty nice. Really, really pretty nice. October 2nd. Dear Mrs. LaRue, were you really so upset about the chicken pie? You know you might have discussed or talked about it with me. You could have said,
Ike, don't eat the chicken pie. I'm saving it for dinner.
Would that have been so difficult? It would have prevented or stopped a lot of hard feelings of being hurt or mad. Needless to say, which means you don't need to say it, I am being horribly mistreated or treated badly. You say I should be patient, not in a big hurry, and accept that I'll be here through the term. Are you aware that the term, the school that lasts 2 months, Last 2 months? Do you know how long that is in dog years? Sincerely, Ike. So he says, you know what, this is what you're seeing, and, it wasn't a big deal. And then there he is typing. October 3rd. Dear Mrs. LaRue, I'd like to clear up some misconceptions, leaving something that is not true, about the Hibbins cats. First, they are hardly the little angels Mrs. Hibbins makes them out to be. Second, how should I know what they were doing out on the fire escape in the middle of January? And this is what a real fire escape looks like. It's just a place where you can, in case there's a fire, you have another way of getting out of your apartment. So you could go out the front door, but if there's fire by the front door, you can go out this fire escape and get down to safety. They were being a bit melodramatic, which means that they behaved like they were more upset than they actually were. Don't you think? The way they cried and refused to come down. It's hard to believe they were really sick for 3 whole days, but cats. Your dog, Ike. And so that's him writing, and so this is what he's saying. The cats are behaving look like they're really, really mean and sneaky, and he's trying to give them food and maybe some water to get them to come down. So he's acting like he's a really good guy, and the cats are really bad, but maybe not so true. October 4th. Dear Mrs. LaRue, you should see what goes on around here. The way my warden, Miss Klondike, barks orders is shocking. So he started saying his teacher, because that's his teacher, and she looks really, really nice. But he makes it believe like she's a warden, which is like a person in charge of a prison. So it looks like she's really mean. It says solitary confinement, so it looks like they're dragging him to a place where he has to stay by himself. That's what he's telling Mrs. LaRue it's like, but it really looks like it's there. And it says gruesome prison tales. So he's trying to read stories. And then when it says barks orders, it means that he's saying that she's bossing them around, but she looks really nice. And then he says shocking, it means surprising and upsetting. Day after day, I'm forced to perform the most meaningless tasks, chores that don't need to be done. Today it was sit and roll over all day long. I flatly refused. I said he wasn't going to follow the directions. I flatly refused to roll over. It's ridiculous, or foolish or crazy. I won't do it. Of course, I was severely punished, which means he was treated very badly for not behaving. He's saying, oh yeah, they drugged me into this room where I had to stay by myself, but really it wasn't the case at all. It looks more like this. And another thing, who will help you cross the street while I'm away? You know you have a bad habit of not looking both ways. Think of all the times I've saved you. Well, there was that one time anyway. I must say you weren't very grateful or thankful. Complaining on and on about the tiny rip in your ratty, torn or in bad condition, old coat. But the point is, you need me. Yours, Ike. October 5th. Dear Mrs. LaRue, the guards here are all caught up in this good dog, bad dog thing. I hear it constantly, which means all the time. Good dog, Ike. Don't be a bad dog, Ike. Is it really so good to sit still like a lummox, or a foolish person, all day? Nevertheless, even though they want him to do something, I refuse to be broken. Won't give in and do what they want. Miss Klondike has taken my typewriter. She claims it disturbs the other dogs. Does anybody care that the other dogs disturb me? Yours, Ike. And his book here is Nasty Dungeons of the World. And then look at, he's eating dog food out of a can. He's got a blender and a little smoothie. And so this is what's really happening. She did take the typer over, but he's looking like he's in prison and there's other mean dogs there. And this is the mean warden, but it's not like that. It's more like this. And he's actually listening to music too. October 6th. Dear Mrs. LaRue, were the neighbors really complaining about my howling? It is hard to imagine. Hard to believe. First, I didn't howl that much. You were away those nights, so you wouldn't know. But trust me, it was quite moderate, which means not too much barking. Second, let's recall, or remember, that these are the same neighbors who are constantly waking me up in the middle of the afternoon with their loud vacuuming. I say we all have to learn to get along. My life here continues to be a nightmare, which means terrible. You wouldn't believe what goes on in the cafeteria. Sincerely, Ike. P.S. I don't want to alarm you or worry you, but the thought of escape has crossed my mind. He has been thinking about escaping. And so he has his 50 Great Escape books here. But look, he's got a fancy menu. And this is what he's eating. And so this is what's really happening. But he's trying to make Mrs. LaRue, his owner, think it looks like this. And it says, no howling, biting, scratching, growling, slobbering, or barking, and no seconds. And it looks like he's got his prison uniform on. He's begging for a little bit of like soup or something. But it really looks like this. October 7th. Dear Mrs. LaRue, I hate to tell you this, but I am terribly ill or sick. It started in my paw, causing me to limp all day. Later, I felt queasy, sick to your stomach, so that I could barely eat dinner, except for the yummy gravy. Then I began to moan or groan, or it's a long sound like this, like that, and howl. Finally, I had to be taken to the vet. Dr. Wolfrey claims that he can't find anything wrong with me, but I am certain I have an awful disease. I must come home at once. Honestly yours, which means he's saying he's not lying. Of course, he's really lying. Ike. It says patient. Ike LaRue. Diagnosis, hypochondriac. So they're basically saying he's faking being sick. And he's got this medical digest book so he can look up diseases, so he can kind of act like he's got those diseases. But this is what's really happening. But it looks like they're hauling him off like this. That's what he's trying to make Mrs. LaRue think. October 8th. Dear Mrs. LaRue, thank you for the lovely, or pretty, get well card. Still, I'm a little surprised that you didn't come get me. I know what Dr. Wilfrey says, but is it really wise to take risks with one's health? I could have a relapse, or he could get sick again. You know, with fall here, I think about all the fine times we used to have in the park. Remember how sometimes you would bring along a tennis ball? You would throw it and I would retrieve it, which means that Ike would go and get it and bring it back. Every time except for once when it landed in something nasty and I brought you back a stick instead. Ah, how I miss those days. Yours truly, Ike. P.S. Imagine how awful it is for me to be stuck inside my tiny cell. P.P.S. I still feel pretty sick. And so he say his cell looks like this, but really this is where he's at, right? This is where he's trying to tell Mrs. LaRue that he's staying, which is not true. And this is where he's actually staying. October 9th. Dear Mrs. LaRue, by the time you read this, I will be gone. I have decided to attempt a daring, or risky, escape. I'm sorry it has come to this, since I am really a very good dog. But frankly, or honestly, you left me no choice. How sad it is not to be appreciated or valued or thought that he does good things. From now on, I'll wander from town to town without a home, or even any dog food most likely. Such is the life of a desperate outlaw, a criminal who will do many bad things. I will try to write to you from time to time as I carry on with my life of hardship or pain and suffering, having a hard life, and danger. Your lonely fugitive, or the person running from the law, Ike. The Snort City Register Gazette, October 10th. LaRue escapes doggy detention. Detention's being held in jail. Former Snort City resident Ike LaRue escaped last night from the dormitory at the Igor Brotweiler Canine Academy. And so that's what a dormitory might look like. It's a bunch of beds in one room, usually. The dog is described as toothy, which means having many big teeth, by local police. His current whereabouts are unknown, and that just means they don't know where he is.
To be honest, I thought he was bluffing
Or not really serious about him running away,
when he told me he was planning to escape.
said a visibly upset, which means she looked upset, Gertrude R. LaRue, the dog's owner.
Ike tends to be a bit melodramatic.
Behaves like things are worse than they actually are.
You know, now I can only pray that he'll come back.
Asked if she would return Ike to Brotweiler Academy, Mrs. LaRue said that she would have to wait and see.
He's a good dog,
Basically, for the most part.
but he can be difficult.
October 11th, somewhere in America. Dear Mrs. LaRue, I continue to suffer horribly as I roam, or travel around, this barren wasteland, a place that's dry, doesn't have many trees, not many people live there. Who knows where my wanderings will take me now? Hopefully to someplace with yummy food. Remember the special treats you used to make for me? I miss them. I miss our nice, comfy apartment, but mostly I miss you. You're sad dog, Ike. P.S. I even miss the Hibbins cats, in a way. Snort City or bust. That just means doing everything possible to get someplace. October 12th, still somewhere. Dear Mrs. LaRue, the world is a hard and cruel place for a stray, a dog or cat running loose without its owner. Dog, you would scarcely believe the misery, being very sad, I've endured or had to live with. So I have decided to return home. You may try to lock me up again, but that is a risk I must take, and frankly, even more than myself, I worry about you. You may not know it, Mrs. LaRue, but you need a dog. You're misunderstood, or not understood by others. Friend, Ike. And look at, it looks like he's out here in the desert and everything's really dry and scary, but it actually looks like he's on an airplane or a train or something like that. I think it's an airplane because look at the sky. The Snort City Register Gazette, October 13. Hero dog saves owner. Ike LaRue, until recently a student at the Igor Brotweiler Canine Academy, returned to Snort City yesterday in dramatic fashion, which means with a lot of attention. In fact, he arrived just in time to rescue his owner, Gertrude R. LaRue of 2nd Avenue, from an oncoming truck, a truck coming towards her. Mrs. LaRue had made the trip downtown to purchase a new camel's hair coat. Apparently, it seems, she neglected or forgot to look both ways before stepping out into traffic. The daring rescue was witnessed or seen by several onlookers, people watching, including Patrolman Newton Smitzer. He rolled right across 2 lanes of traffic to get at her, said Smitzer. It was really something. I haven't seen rolling like that since I left the police academy. And rolled right across just means ran fast. Mrs. LaRue was unhurt in the incident, or the event, or the thing that happened to her, though her coat was badly torn.
I don't care about that, she said. I'm just happy to have my Ike back home where he belongs.
LaRue says she plans to throw a big party for the dog.
All the neighbors will be there, and I'm going to serve Ike's favorite dishes. I'll bet he can't wait to taste the chicken pie.
It says, welcome home, but look at Ike. He is already eating the chicken pie, and he's not supposed to. He's supposed to wait till the party. He's getting into trouble again. Can you believe it?